Are we on? Good. Good afternoon now. Settle down, everybody. Come along. There we are. Good. Good afternoon, everybody. And what a marvellous delegation we've had from the Cameroon to this event. They really make the event a vibrant event. And we're so grateful to you all coming over, and very grateful for the rest of the of our members attending this fascinating event. I've been to Cameroon twice in the last 18 months. I can't tell you what a marvellous country it is and what generous and warm-hearted people. And we're very lucky to have two of their most senior ministers here. In fact, they both run the country, but don't tell anyone else. We've got my great friend and loyalist supporter of our organisation, Felix Mbayu, who is the Foreign Affairs Minister, and we had a very special time together in Bangladesh, and it was very kind of you to lead a delegation there, Felix, and we're so grateful to you. We're also incredibly grateful for sponsoring this whole summit, and without you, we wouldn't be able to put it on. So double thanks for bringing such a big delegation, and also for acting as sponsors for the summit. And of course, with him, the country would not run without the great Minister of the Economy himself, Paul Tasong, who has been a fine supporter of ours, and I've had the pleasure of meeting him on a number of occasions. So, welcome both of you. Thank you very much for all your support. Everyone wants to hear about the Cameroon. You are the best people to tell us about it. And then I will hand over to Lord Swire to manage proceedings. But thank you very much indeed for everything you've done. Are you coming on first, Felix, or?
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Well, I will just stand on established protocol, and so I wouldn't go into any further addresses. But to start by thanking Lord Marlon, who has so kindly put his exceptional business acumen into making the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council a vibrant tool for promoting investments on our continent in my country. And through him, I thank the other members of the council. And as I said in Bangladesh, Lord Marlon has a smell for what is good. And the fact that he's visited Cameroon twice means that there's something good in Cameroon which most of you should try to find out about. If I'm here simply to present the country, I am here with my friend and colleague who would go into the beef of the matter. So I would just give you a skeletal presentation of the country, which I guess most of you know something about. Because being British, being lovers of the Premier League, you know something about soccer or football. And you can't know something about football without knowing about Cameroon. Am I mistaken? Good. So if Cameroon can produce good soccer players, good football players, then we can produce more good stuff. And it's just an endeavor this morning to give you an appetite to find out more. Basically, you know the geographical position of Cameroon, somewhere in the armpit of Africa, somewhere in the junction between West and Central Africa. Cameroon is the gateway to the Central African sub-region, and it's also the side gate into Nigeria. Why is this important? Is that sub-region has a lot of economic potential. Nearly everything you need, you can find it in that sub-region. And Cameroon alone is responsible for 40% of the GDP of the sub-region. When I talk about the sub-region, which countries am I talking about? Cameroon, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Central African Republic, and you know all the oil, all the mineral, and the rare soils they have. When I talk about Nigeria, what am I talking about? The large market Nigeria has. So if you invest in Cameroon, you have access to this sub-region and to Nigeria. The sub-region speak 2 languages. Most of the other countries speak French. Cameroon happens to speak French and English. So for most of you here who conduct business in English, Cameroon is a bridge to these countries which have this great potential. So you invest in Cameroon, you will have the possibility of dealing with the countries which have the same customs regulations, the same tax laws, but Cameroon gives you the facility of using English and dealing with people who speak French on a daily basis. So that is it about Cameroon. Apart from the 40% GDP, Cameroon is a vibrant economy. It's a country which has a 35% debt ratio as per the GDP. It's a country which has enormous resources. My colleague, the minister, would demonstrate most of that. It's a country which has put in place many incentives for attracting business. I won't go into that detail because I'll let him deal with that. It's a country which has gone in phases in terms of economic development. We dealt with what you know, most of you know, at a certain point, the poverty reduction strategy, from there to the growth and employment, and now with the NDS, the National Development Strategy, which he's going to focus on. But to say this, initially when I was asked to speak, I heard it being said, China has been responsible for a lot of investments in Cameroon for the past 20 years. Is there any space for other countries of the Commonwealth? The terrain is so vast. But why do you learn about the Chinese involvement in the country? Is that they just took advantage of a vacuum. At a time when there was a prevalent narrative on African or Afro-pessimism, they realized something, that one's trash could be the other person's manure or fertilizer, and they decided to take advantage of it. They have helped to create this environment, this new environment or narrative of optimism, not only on the continent, but particularly in our sub-region, which I guess you should all try to tag along with, because the opportunities abound for investments in the country. We have put in place incentives through certain instruments. For example, talking about this country, you know, after the Brexit, we did sign an economic partnership agreement with the UK, which mirrors essentially the previous agreement with the EU. And it's been so attractive that we have British companies which were in Cameroon, which still continue. One of the major ones being Actis, and we have Bywater, but you have companies involved in breweries and other type of beverages, all British. Furthermore, we have such a performant economy that the UK export financing has opened a window for Cameroon worth 1.5 billion pounds. And I think the Standard Chartered Bank has financed infrastructure in Cameroon within that window. This window is open for most of you to be able to tap into. But that said, we have many other incentives for new businesses. I'll let my colleague deal with that. New businesses who have tax and custom exemptions on new investments, be it in equipment and other factors of investment. So you see, what I've tried to demonstrate to you are the comparative advantages of doing business in Cameroon. Lord Marlon talked about us financing this session. It's because we do think it is important, or when I say we, let me be humble enough to say we doesn't mean me. I'm talking about the leader of the country, His Excellency Paul Biya, thinks that the Commonwealth effectively has the so-called Commonwealth advantage, which we should tap into. The Commonwealth trade advantage doesn't mean that Commonwealth countries are a group of countries which are geographically contiguous, but it means a group of countries which share certain values, principles, which can be injected into their business practices. But these countries have to then take advantage of our comparative advantage to compete with the others. What I can assure you is that Cameroon is open for business with Commonwealth countries because apart from the UK companies I've mentioned, you have Indian companies which are doing well in Cameroon, building electric transmission lines, and who are involved in one of our major infrastructural projects, the Nachtigal Dam, which is producing enough electricity for us to even export to our neighboring countries. And so the transmission lines are of prime importance. We have companies from Malaysia who are in the agri sector. My colleague will be demonstrating the importance of agriculture in our NDS 30. So you see, there's a lot. I know we have had discussions with businesses who are involved or interested in our water sector. It is a sector open for business with a lot of potential. But perhaps for you as business persons, what you would like to know is what is your return on investments. The return on investments in Cameroon is quite significant. And you have a tax holiday at the initial stages of your investment. So, not to take off your interest in listening to my colleague, my intention, my purpose, my duty here was to serve you an aperitif for you to listen to the very detailed statement you get from the Minister, Tasong. But before I leave, I am so pleased that just about when I'm about to leave the stage, I see the chairman of Zenith Bank coming into the room. Sir, you're welcome. Cameroon is such a nice place for business, particularly for Nigerian banks, because you have the UBA, which has in Cameroon a number of branches and is doing very, very well. And you recently, in the past 2 years, you have Access Bank, which has come in. And seeing you here means you're showing interest even in our banking sector. And so we welcome you, Mr. Tasong. So before Paul gets angry with me that I'm talking and even trying to read his speech, I'll let him speak. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to now hear from His Excellency Felix Mbayu, and who is the Minister Delegate at the Ministry of External Relations in charge of relations with the Commonwealth, and then we're going to have a short film after that. Excellency.
I thank you. Good morning. Or good afternoon, I should say. Please don't expect me to be as fluent as Minister Mbayu, who was as Lord Marland. I was born in a village. I saw electricity for the first time when I was 12 years old. So I think in a different language and managed to communicate in English, which is still magical for me up to today. My job is to guide you to the understanding of Cameroon's national development strategy. And for me to do that, I feel compelled to take you slightly back into the history of Cameroon's economic development. Please, this is not expected to be an academic exercise, but I just think I have to do a couple of things for you to understand exactly where we are and where we are coming from. So I will take you slightly back into Cameroon's economic development history so as to establish the case for elaborating and implementing a national development strategy. Cameroon got independence in 1960, so the country is 63 years old. And between 1960 and the mid-80s, Cameroon's development was planned in pieces of 5 years each. So we had short and rigid planning approaches of 5 years each. The first five pieces of 5 years each were implemented without any difficulties. But right in the middle of the implementation of the sixth 5 years development plan, Cameroon faced major shocks, major headwinds because of the famous commodity price shocks of that period. And then the country went into a long lethargic period of structural adjustment, during which there was just no planning because the country only managed to survive. But in 2006, following 3 years of the heavily indebted poor country initiative, Cameroon managed to cross the borderline, or what they call the completion point. And after that, the technicians of the country got together and said, we have always run on a plan. Now we have none. What do we do? So we looked at the situation of the country. In 1960, Cameroon was 5 million. In the year 2000, Cameroon was about 20 million. Planning methods and approaches could not be the same. We had to change the techniques from rigid planning to strategic and more flexible planning. So we proposed to President Paul Biya a 25 years vision of Cameroon. And our proposal to him was from 2010 to 2025, we should set our eyes on where we want Cameroon to be. And he approved that. And he opted to say he will take Cameroon to the status of an emerging country by 2035. Of course, 25 years is such a long time to be precise in your projections. There is no macroeconomic framework which can be so precise in 25 years. So we had to break it down. We break it down into 3 periods. The first one, which was the growth and employment strategy, which ran from 2010 to 2020. Then the second part, which is what we are actually implementing now, the National Development Strategy, expected to run from 2020 to 2030. And for us to be able to establish the foundation of the National Development Strategy, the natural thing to do was, first of all, to assess the road covered by the first period of the strategy, the first 10 years, the first period of the long-term development vision, and, of course, analyze the context and articulate the strategy around what we found. In 2019, when we were working on this, the shocks of the 2014 major commodity shock, the effects were still very much alive. And because of that, in 2017, the IMF actually advised Cameroon to go into an economic and financial program with them. Main purpose of that program being to stabilize budget deficits, and of course, Cameroon being part of a monetary union, which is CEMAC, it was important to try to beef up our foreign exchange reserves, which had dwindled heavily because of the oil price shocks witnessed in the middle of that decade. Still in context, naturally, Cameroon, like any other country, facing the very strong and devastating effects of climate change. It was more evident then than it was before. Our population had exploded. The youth population had grown, and all of that comes with unemployment and, of course, a lot of poverty. Another phenomenon which is important to note is we are witnessing a very strange and rapid urban sprout in Cameroon. Today, more than 50% of Cameroon's population lives in the major cities. Only 14 of the major cities in Cameroon have more than 50% of Cameroon's population. And compared to the situation in 1960, where only 20% of the population lived in the cities. With all of this in consideration, we attempted to design a strategy. We had to kind of change the narrative from the past. In the first 10 years of the long-term vision of Cameroon, the target, our hope was to rely on public infrastructure development to drive the economy. After 10 years, it was easy for us to note and accept that that was probably not the best way to do it. So how do we change the narrative? We thought focusing on the public sector is definitely insufficient. After all, our challenges are strong and continuous economic growth. Our challenges are providing decent employment to our very youthful population. And of course, the public service can't employ as many people as Mr. Ovia and his friends of the private sector. So we opted to structure the strategy around the most important, the backbone pillar, which we call the structural transformation of the economy. At the core of which is to bring the private sector to the driving seat of the economy. And we have other pillars mainly to support this main pillar. Our top priorities when it comes to helping the private sector to help us is to ramp up on industrialization. And when you talk about industrialization everywhere, and even more particularly in Africa, the first challenge that comes to mind is energy. Without sufficient energy, you can't drive a process of industrialization. And we happen to be one of those countries heavily endowed in terms of clean energy potentials. We have a potential of about 23 gigawatts of energy nationwide, of which about 10 gigawatts virtually is found on one river basin only. On top of that, we can as well generate a lot of solar, wind, but even more interesting is the potential to produce green hydrogen and ammonia from these energy sources. Our target with energy is power the households, of course, for social purposes, but drive industrialization, and why not export what is left over to our neighboring countries. Our household needs in Cameroon are somewhere between 1 and 2 gigas, 1 and 2 gigawatts. Industrial needs won't exceed 5 gigawatts, but we have a potential of about 23 gigawatts. Therefore, Nigeria, our neighbor to the west, is ready to eat up everything. And we have Sahelian countries who are neighbors like Chad, who are open off-takers of our energy production. This is to say, our main focus is energy. On the other hand, we have, as a major priority, the continuous development of multimodal transportation systems, roads, railways, airports, seaports, and what have you. Of course, we need to feed the industries. To feed the industries, our main source is what we have on the surface, which is agriculture. This is a country that has 5 ecological zones wrapped in one, spanning from the dense tropical forest up to Pew Desert to the northern part of Cameroon. Across these 5 belts, virtually everything can grow. Our next priority is developing digital resources. Everyone knows there's no way you can leapfrog on any economic transformation without sufficient digital resources. So there is room to, mining. Our underground is sufficiently rich. We have virtually everything down there on the ground in Cameroon, ranging from iron ore, bauxite, gold, diamond, cobalt, nickel, rutile, and what have you. Today, the challenge, or one of the biggest challenges facing Africa is financing. Mr. Obia knows this, is financing. We definitely face the challenge of developing new financing instruments for the economy. And where we have this specific situation where we are in a monetary union with other countries, where we have to push, Cameroon has to push because we produce about 60%, just to complement Mr. Mbayu's statement, we produce about 50% of the GDP of CEMAC, but at the same time, we own about 60% of the reserves in the common central bank that we have for these countries. I'm talking to the private sector. I'm not talking to some government people. So let me go straight to what may interest you. He did mention incentives. Those who want to come and help us attain the levels of economic growth that we are looking at over the 10 years running, we enjoy 3 types of incentives. The first one is special economic zones, because we think it's not sufficient to provide tax breaks. Tax breaks alone can't help a company build its own DNA over a sustained period. You need to bring it to physical, and we think you need to complement tax breaks with special economic zones so companies, beyond enjoying the taxes, enjoy as well a fiscal built-up environment that enables them improve on their productivity. Of course, the tax breaks are there. We have a law from 2013 which provides those tax breaks, but which we are revising because we want to update it and make it more optimal, both for the private sector and the economy itself. And more importantly is the PPP framework for Cameroon. It is now abundantly clear that overseas development assistance can't take us to where we want to get to. If we continue to count on overseas development assistance or development aid, call it whatever you want, our hope of emergence by 2035 may be compromised. So we are opening up to the private sector to roll out infrastructure projects which otherwise are more in the public realm, but in partnership with government in one way or the other. So we have a new law which was voted in this year, 2023, amending the initial law of 2006, based on the lessons learned, making it more flexible, more open, more accommodating for the private sector. So we have those 3 types of incentives which I thought I should touch on. To complement and give you an appetizer of the theme that is going to come up, if you ask me what's Cameroon's opportunity, how does President Paul Biya see his country? What does he say himself? I would say to you, Cameroon is a country with a population of about 29 million, of which more than 65% is under 25 years old. Cameroon is a country with a surface area of 475,000 square kilometers. That's about double the size of the United Kingdom. Cameroon is part of CEMAC's Common Market and Monetary Union. My colleague did make mention of that. When we count our potentials, there are two elements which are more exogenous. When we count the potentials of Cameroon, we count Nigeria. Because we know not only the historical relationship that we have, I think it's even beyond historical. It's historical, it's sociological, it's everything. Nigeria and Cameroon are intertwined. These are the only two countries around us where historically you can cross the border without anybody holding you back, with or without a passport. Full movement of people between Cameroon and Nigeria. When we count our potentials, we count Nigeria. But we also extend a bit to the south to count the DRC and the rest of CEMAC. So investing in Cameroon is virtually investing in Cameroon plus Nigeria and the DRC. So our proximity to our neighbor. Cameroon's opportunity is Cameroon's huge clean energy potential. I just made mention of that. And let me insist on the hydrogen project we have in the works with a Commonwealth company, Fortescue, an Australian company. We are working together very, very seriously. I'm honored to supervise that project on behalf of the government of Cameroon to use part of Cameroon's huge green energy potential to produce green hydrogen in Cameroon. It's the energy of the future. And of course, who says hydrogen says ammonia. And when you say ammonia, you mean fertilizers. Fertilizers, agriculture. That's the chain. Cameroon is a country where 75% of the population has access to electricity. This is, of course, not what President Biya wants. He would have preferred 100%. But compared to other African countries, we think we are not doing badly. Cameroon is a country that has deep sea ports, of which one is completely rolled out and functioning. I'm talking about Kribi. The second one, Limbe, is actively under works in terms of project preparation. I did mention our 5 agroecological zones, which range from pristine tropical forest to pure desert conditions. I did mention the rich underground of Cameroon. But of course, it is good to know that life expectancy in this country is 65 years today, up from 45 at independence in 1960. Yes, very, very highly skilled and well-trained workforce. This is something we pride ourselves in. We say it with pride. What prospects, therefore, for the National Development Strategy? It's good. If I don't say this, then I will not have been honest enough with you. We wrapped up the preparation of the National Development Strategy in 1990. And strategy went into implementation from the 1st of January 2020. You all know what happened when we got up early in 2020. COVID. COVID kind of shattered all our projections. And when President Biya asked us if we still believed in our projections, we asked him, except he wants to take a step back on his dream of taking Cameroon to the status of an emerging country. And he said no, his emergence dream stays, which means the challenges of COVID have kind of held us back, but this is only a core for us to do much more if we must continue to pursue our dream of emergence. The case is not different with the impact of the Russian, Ukraine, whatever you call it. But the lessons we draw from that is the fact that our economy, before we got up the morning of that war, was heavily dependent on those two countries. We never took time, we never knew how much we were dependent on those two countries until that war broke out. Then we realized that virtually 60% of the rice we consumed in Cameroon was coming from those, the wheat flour we consumed in Cameroon was coming from those two countries. Same for fertilizers, steel rods, and others. And because of that, President Biya, in one of his statements, said, let's try to consume what we produce and produce what we consume. And on that, he instructed to vigorously pursue an import substitution policy combined with an export promotion policy. We don't try to promote an autarky in Cameroon now, but we think we need to work hard to reduce our dependency on importations. Important to say, Cameroon was among the first countries to sign and ratify the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And Cameroon is committed to the implementation of that agreement. And in that wise, we are focused on structuring and developing agricultural value chains in Cameroon so as to be present and to participate more efficiently in the layout of the Continental Free Trade Agreement. On that note, I think I will stop it here and I take my seat. And if you have any questions, why not?
We have a video.
Yes.
Video.
The short video you're going to watch now is actually
is an economic hub that gives access to the large market spaces of the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, the Economic and Monetary Community of Central Africa, CIMAC, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, through Nigeria, and even the Southern African Development Community, SADC, and the East African Community, EAC, via Chad, Congo, and the Central African Republic. The country has a bilingual workforce, a surface area of 475,650 square kilometers, and a population of over 27 million inhabitants. It has its head in the heat of the Sahel and its feet in the Atlantic Ocean. A postcard country, Cameroon is a vast geological and botanical park, a touristic destination par excellence. It offers a cosmopolitan social calendar and lifestyle to foreign investors with a broad spectrum of international schools, supermarkets, continental cuisine, nightlife second to none, multiple sports facilities to keep fit, and a safe and secure environment to live in comfortably. Cameroon, a meeting point of people and cultures, is known for its diverse and resilient economy as well as the dynamism of its population. The country's National Development Strategy and Industrial Master Plan focuses on import substitution as a catalyst to industrialization and to achieve the country's declared objective of being an emerging economy by 2035. The priority is therefore investment. New giant sites like deep sea ports, roads and superhighways, bridges, dams are ongoing, with a hydropower potential of over 23,000 megawatts and its diversified energy sources, notably biomass, solar, wind, geothermal, and fossil fuel energies, the construction of major energy infrastructures, and the drive to supply energy and potable water is on the move. Cameroon, an oil-producing country and soon a major gas producer, is equally referred to as a geological scandal because of its subsoil, which offers many mineral riches, amongst which are gold, bauxite, manganese, nickel, diamond, rutile, cobalt. Cameroon is a land of agriculture. Almost everything grows. The huge variety of the agricultural products makes Cameroon the breadbasket of Central Africa and beyond. The transformation of its cash crops into competitive export-ready products is a top government priority. With 65% of the population aged 25 years and below, Cameroon can boast of one of the highest literacy rates in Africa. It has over 11 state universities and many institutions of higher learning in various fields of arts and sciences, including professional and vocational education, offering a wide range of professional manpower. In the area of health, Cameroon has highly trained medical personnel in diverse domains and many health institutions with cutting-edge technology. Today, the 8th continent of planet Earth is the digital world, and Cameroon is part of that evolution with its own Silicon Mountain. Mobile telephony and digital transactions are commonplace. Internet penetration with 20,000 kilometers of optic fiber cable is increasing daily, ensuring a gradual digitalization of the economy. Considerable progress has been recorded in the area of governance and the strengthening of state institutions and the amelioration of the business environment through the existing bodies such as the Council for the Regulation of Competitiveness, Cameroon Business Forum, the one-stop shop for company creation, the Investment Promotion Agency, as well as supervisory bodies to ensure business transparency and the eradication of corruption, such as the National Anti-Corruption Commission, the Supreme State Control, the Audit Bench of the Supreme Court, and the National Agency for Financial Investigation. Cameroon, the land of opportunities, which offers you significant returns on your investment in an atmosphere conducive to long-term business grants, generous, unparalleled non-preferential fiscal and custom incentives to both foreign and local businessmen. Recognizing the country's strategic positioning, its 27 million population, hard-working and bilingual workforce, untapped agricultural potential, untapped mineral resources, its cultural diversity and resilience, your choice could not be better. To help you achieve this, the Investment Promotion Agency welcomes, orientates, advises, facilitates, and ensures that your business in Cameroon is developed speedily, efficiently, and sustainable. Welcome on board.
That's how you capture goodwill.
Just do questions and answers rather than me asking you questions.
It's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, well, I would like to add my thanks to those of our chairman, Lord Marland, to thank Cameroon for being such a key sponsor to our two-day trade and investment conference. I'm looking forward myself to travelling to the country next year, although I was slightly alarmed to hear that the life expectancy of a man in Cameroon is 65, as I turn 64 on Thursday, so peut-être il serait trop tard pour moi, but I will do my endeavours to be alive and to come there next year. And having seen that wonderful video, it's certainly whetted my appetite. Look, we are a little bit short of time now, and I think both their excellencies covered so much ground that the questions I was going to ask have really already been answered by them. So I think in the remaining 10 minutes or so, we'll throw, with their agreement, throw the questions open to all of you. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them. Who's going first? Yes. Could you say who you are and where you're from as well? And a microphone. Can we take them up at Pride? Can you rush around with this terrifying looking mic? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Imran, and I'm representing Pakistan Chambers of Commerce and Industry. My question is, how easy is it for investors to remit money back, to repatriate money back to their countries of origin? Okay. And also, what is the currency situation in terms of devaluation, and how do you intend to tackle that? What's your vision on that going forward? Thank you.
Want to take that?
We need a mic back. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Does this one
Oh,
work?
you're wired up, are you?
Okay.
You're good.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a vital question for any one looking at an investment destination. It's vital. I did mention the fact that we are in a monetary union with 5 other countries. And of course, we run a common central bank, which has foreign exchange regulations. The regulations are clearly spelled out. They are transparent. You can find them on the site of the central bank of the Central African states. There is a procedure, of course, which you need to follow to repatriate your profits to your country, just like everyone else. But I don't think there's any economy in the world that says you come, you invest, you make profit, and you can take that profit out. No, it is very open, very possible. That is what is done every day. And that's why investors come to the Central African sub-region. Maybe there are some specific cases where the attention is very, very high. Maybe you are involved in the extractive industries, because that's where the biggest challenge is. Our sub-region being one so endowed with such resources, Cameroon is actually the smallest oil producer, because 5 out of the 6 countries produce oil and gas. Cameroon is the smallest producer. So if the central bank doesn't watch carefully, then the foreign reserves can get totally depleted. So there is a monitoring mechanism to make sure that the profits are repatriated into the country where the company is registered, and eventually there is a procedure to take it out. But
Perhaps I should add just to say, talking about Pakistan, Pakistani business persons have been involved in Cameroon for a long time. If you look at the retail sector in Cameroon between the 70s moving forward, you'll see there are many Pakistanis in the retail sector, and they're quite good at finding ways of legally exporting or repatriating profits. I think, in complement to what the minister said, is something which actually happens, is if they didn't have the means to repatriate their profits, they wouldn't be reinvesting in Cameroon. So I think it should be a problem on the basis of what the minister said. But before I enter Lord Swire, 65 is life expectancy, but life starts at 65 because I'm above 65.
And you only just started.
Yes, the gentleman here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vidya. I represent World Renewable Energy Congress, and also coming from the University of Bolton. Let me, first of all, congratulate Cameroon delegate, the team, and the vision, for the future. And I see a huge potential of renewable energy in that land. And in fact, I was, part of the team that, brought Sri Lanka to 100% penetration of the grid and got 100% of people into the electricity, away from energy poverty. So my question is, can I, meet with someone to discuss further about the possibility of enhancing the green energy, renewable energy and green hydrogen, and so on and so forth? Thank you.
Yes, and just a quick one to you. The gentleman just before you, Mr. Zhang Zie, is standing to look at you right now. Yes. He is the one chairing a committee set up by the Prime Minister, which I supervise, to develop the production of hydrogen in Cameroon and all what it takes. And of course, I myself am available, so you can get to me. We'll exchange cards, and we can even have...
There you are. There's CWEIC working properly. You only have to go 2 feet to get your answer and the deal. Gentleman in front.
Perhaps the minister didn't mention that we're a major player in the World Solar Alliance in terms of renewable energy. I think it's good to put that on record.
You, sir, yes?
Thank you, and first of all, congratulations to the ministers about their statement. Just have a question. I'm originated from Democratic Republic of the Congo, and as the ministers have mentioned, the port of Kribi and even Douala they are one of the gateway of the region, of the sub-region. So is there any projects, Excellencies, about the Kribi, Douala, Bangui, Zongo corridor? Is there any project with other countries such as Republic Centrafricaine and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, because that corridor is very crucial for the economy of not only Cameroon, but all the sub-region. I'd like to have an idea about that corridor, if there is any project of rehabilitation of the road, for example, that can be a transnational project. Thank you.
Good question.
Yes, I'll let you know that the cooperation, the friendship ties, the economic relations that exist between Cameroon and all its neighbors is vital. And this is translated through road infrastructure, but even more so, other types of infrastructure. Cameroon has a lot of potential and is surrounded by countries which are not so blessed. The fact that we're open to the sea, we have 400 kilometers of shoreline, you know. Hinterland, we have Chad and Gabon, Chad and Central African Republic, which are totally dependent on Cameroon for bulk importations into their countries. The responsibility is ours to ensure that the Central African Road Network, which implements the Pan-African road networks as elaborated by the AU, the responsibility is ours to ensure that these roads go through. Of course, not only to serve those countries, but even to serve ourselves at the same time. We understand the role we have to play. At the same time, there is the fiber optic backbone which links Cameroon to Central African Republic as well as Chad. There is a Central African energy pool which is looking at Cameroon to develop power lines between Cameroon and Chad. They have no hydro potential at all. So the best and cheapest energy they can get is from Cameroon. Just last week, we had a Chadian minister of infrastructure visiting Cameroon. He signed conventions with the Cameroon Minister of Works to rehabilitate the roads. And at the same time, in the same week, we had the Chadian Minister of Energy to sign a project funded by the World Bank to stretch the power transmission lines from Cameroon all the way to N'Djamena. So there is sufficient subregional cooperation, which is a trust-building element between the different countries, because it's only together that we can develop. And don't forget, these are all parts of implementing the Continental Free Trade Agreement, for which Cameroon, which is a true believer of multilateralism, puts and takes and considers as an element of honor. Thank you.
To be more precise, just to be more precise on the issue which you mentioned about linkages to the DRC, we had a discussion earlier, and when the minister ended his presentation, I think one of the takeaways was the fact that investing in Cameroon is an opportunity to have access to DRC and Nigeria. Now, when you spoke, I know you work for Africa Finance, something like that? Africa Desk, yeah. You talked about rehabilitating the roads, which I think is an area where we can focus. Because already there's a lot of trade from Cameroon through Central Africa to, because most of the pork products which you consume in Congo is exported from Cameroon, from one of our biggest agro-basins. And not to talk of one of your favorite meals, pondu, which you get from, we export a lot of that. Just like we export Aero and things to Nigeria, we export pondu to the DRC.
Yep.
Yeah,
Minister Mbayu, you talked earlier about China and the Chinese investment there, and I agree with you. I think we can't go on blaming China for being in places where they want to extricate sort of minerals and other things. It's our fault for not being there ourselves. So instead of complaining about them, we should redouble our efforts. With that in mind, I want to ask our CWEIC country director, Cham. We've heard these incredible opportunities for investment in Cameroon. We've heard that Cameroon is looking for outside investors, non-Chinese investors. I'm going to come to the lady who's going to ask a question after this, but I'd just like you to to tell us where you think the good entry points are for CWEIC members to do business in the country.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I may not be as knowledgeable as the ministers, but when Lord Malan was in Cameroon, he was handed over the National Development Strategy by the minister. And we immediately embarked on working on that document to identify entering point for our strategic partners who are interested in Cameroon. There are three main areas that we've looked into. Technology, Cameroon is looking at tapping into the technology potential into the country. Another area is road infrastructure. The country has put priority now in connectivity, road connectivity, within and without the country. We are looking at the Kribi-Idea Highway, which is a road infrastructure that stands out as a priority for the government. We're looking at Douala-Yaoundé, which connects the political capital to the economic capital. And there's also some interest in the energy sector. The country has developed some hydroelectric dams over the year. The issue now is transportation of energy to consumption centers. So we think strategic partners with interest in these areas can equally make their way into the country. The health sector as well is a priority for the government. For the first phase of the emerging concept of the country from 2010 to 2020, the government has developed health infrastructure in all major quarters of the 10 regions of the country. Now, digitalizing this to meet those populations which are in the rural areas is critical, because when you look at digital penetration in the country, it is something which we can build on to be able to meet the needs of the population in terms of healthcare. So these are some of the areas we are looking at. The National Development Strategy as a whole requires £11 billion to achieve an emerging concept. So when you look at this amount of money, the government is actually offering a massive opportunity for our strategic partners.
There you are. So strategic partners, Cham is your man if you are interested in taking this further. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to say in this rather male-dominated session, the last question goes to a lady. No, she's now lost.
She's given it to me.
No, it's a man. She's given. No, I'd like the lady to ask the question. She wanted to ask the question. Oh, well, we nearly got a lady, but anyway, it's the final question anyway. Make it a good one.
Thank you, speakers, for that lovely talk you did. My family's based in Nigeria, and we do shipping in Nigeria. So I wanted to see what are the opportunities for shipping in Cameroon. We currently do bunkering with an NPC and with the organizations in there. So is there something similar we can expand on in the country in Cameroon? Thank you.
We are glad to be here with the CEO of Cameroon National Shippers Council, Mr. Mbappe, who happens to be the one hosting, chairing CWEIC's office in Cameroon.
The hub, yeah.
So the hub is in his hands. If I'm talking about that, if I attempt a response to your question, I will probably stay in the air. I'm sure Mr. Mbappe will give you the best details. My suggestion would be that you hold a little conversation over tea with him for that purpose. Except, Mr. Cham, except your chair may want to, or you yourself. But I think for purposes of efficiency, my Lord, just...
But you can say something.
Yes, thank you, Your Excellency. As far as the shipping industry is concerned in Cameroon, we have short shipping activity between the port of Kribi and Nigeria. So most definitely, we equally have the port of Limbe, which is offering some shipping services between the coast of Cameroon and the coast of Nigeria. You have the delegated director of the port of Limbe, who is there, who has actually carried out some studies about shipping between Cameroon and Nigeria, which is looking forward to develop the port of Kribi to serve some 6 states in southeast part of Nigeria. This is Calabar, Onitsha, and other parts of this country. So I think we can deepen the discussion during a coffee break with the director of Kribi and my general manager, Mr. Mbappe.
Good. Thank you very much.
Lord Swipe, please.
Yes.
Just one last point, which I don't want us to miss, because the question you asked of Mr. Cham about the opportunities for CWEIC members. to tell you that, or to inform members that there are CWEIC partners who are already involved in two major areas, digital education and our universal health care project. Coverage. So I think there are possibilities, and please feel free to take advantage of them. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank both of your excellencies for such an incredibly positive and uplifting presentation. And I hope in some small part it goes some way to helping you achieve what you're trying to for your country. We'll certainly do our bit. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings to a close this morning's sessions, and now all that faces you in the immediate aftermath of this is lunch. So thank you for joining us.
And before the lunch, we have some gifts for some panelists. Can you bring them over, please? Lord, so yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Just want you
Wonderful
to
bag.
have this, and
Thank you.
you will just tell the others what is inside afterwards, so that those.
Is it live?
Look, it's
Oh my
not
God.
live. There's a lot of. You want to look?
Oh, look.
Good.
Solid gold.
Yeah. Bronze.
Wonderful. Look at that. I love that. Fantastic.
Cameroon coffee?
Cameroon coffee.
Thank you, Excellency.
Yes.
Like Christmas already, or my birthday.
Cameroon chocolate.
Cameroon chocolate.
Okay.
And
Cameroon pepper.
Yes.
White pepper. That's
White
very
pepper.
special.
It's very special.
Let me check, please.
And it
We have a trademark on that.
trademark.
it's
Right?
lucky I'm not a minister anymore, otherwise I have to declare all these gifts.
Check the room for the
No,
minute.
no, that's fine. Yes, okay. And
Another one.
yeah, that's beautiful. So
Thank you.
all the other panelists will be having similar gifts.
Not as good as these, I hope.
Well, and most importantly, the bag is made of raffia. Good.
Biodegradable.
Biodegradable raffia.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Please feel free to, Jim, come to Cameroon.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
been a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Excellency.
Sharing this
Thank you very much. Very good presentation.
Can you give, I would like to hand over to the president of Zenith Bank.
Okay.
We are members of Pakistan Stock Exchange.
Okay.
And I chair Pakistan.
Jim's getting one.
Jim,
All right.
okay. No, please, he has to see it. Let him touch it at least.
I don't want
Please.
to.
Good, good.
Is
You
Jim
want to
getting
see
a
it?
better one than me?
No, well, the coffee, yeah, take the coffee. Yes, it's okay. Yes, you have the chocolate.
Please.
Yes, okay.
Food.
Yes, the spoon.
Tomorrow. Yes.
Jim.
Man, they shall
There's a lot more.
Cham, I'm afraid we had to aim off a bit there. They changed.
Well, he's looking for gold inside the bag. You have to come and invest and get it out.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I realize.